Welcome to the Refit podcast. Joining me today is Jeremy Barker, founder and CEO of Murphy Door. Before he built the number one hidden door brand in America, I love this part. He was a firefighter and paramedic. And at one point was living out of his car. And he's been bankrupt more than once. He took the discipline of the firehouse and learned sometimes the hard way how to apply it to business. Today, Jeremy runs Murphy Door. It's an 8-figure company with over 1 billion social views in the past year and triple-digit growth. So this episode isn't about the highlight reel. It's about the decisions made when money's gone, pressure's real, and failure was the most likely outcome. So Jeremy, great to have you with us today, my man.
So nice to be here. I appreciate you a lot, Kyle, especially on this holiday weekend. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
right
that.
on. Likewise, likewise. Why don't you give us maybe a 60-second version of what else you'd like to fill in the blanks here, but who you are and what you lead today.
Absolutely. My name's Jeremy Barker, and I'm the founder and CEO of Murphy Door. It's the hidden door company that you guys have started to get to know over the last several years. We pride ourselves in delivering the passageway or gateway to your dream or your secret space or whatever it is that you want to entail. We've been one of the fastest growing companies in the United States by Inc. 5000s, for the last, this will be 7 years now. And it's been an honor to lead and doing this with a few failed experiences and practice moments, I like to refer to them, in our previous endeavors, and taking those lessons from that and past experiences to create something that's been a wild ride, to say the least. So we
Sounds like it.
manufacture everything, we sell everything all direct here right in the United States. So we're proudly made in America, from our hinges to our doors and boxes as well. Everything's American. So we love to say that, and we're proud of that.
Amen to that. I love that. How did you go from fire, paramedic, EMS, et cetera, and now running this multi-million-dollar growing business?
What was the transition?
Yeah.
Obviously poverty, probably. Like, I loved my job as a firefighter, like still to this day, as much as I love Murphy Door, there's nothing like the dopamine hit you get and the adrenaline you get, and then the brotherhood that you have inside a firehouse. It's truly a underappreciated. I think it's appreciated at the level of when you show up to a call, but it's definitely undervalued at the services they render and the sacrifice given. But also it's one of those jobs that you do with love, because you get all those other kind of chemical hits that come with it. But it just didn't pay right at the time. This was 2016 when I finally left the fire world. I was making $15.62 an hour as a paramedic. That's not an EMT, but a paramedic and firefighter. So it didn't pay great. And I have 3 kids and, of course, a house and cars and all the stuff. And after I did my union dues and my health insurance, dental, vision, all the crap that goes along with it, my net check, and my contribution to my retirement, I was $762 every weeks. And since I'm great with math, my house payment was $2,311. It usually takes 3 paychecks to hit that number, and there's only 2 in a month, so that becomes problematic. And I thought, because of my previous experiences in supplying big box stores with the storage buildings that I did prior, in my early 20s, I knew that there was some other way to make money, hopefully passively, by the way. This idea of Murphy Door was not to be something that I left fire for. It was something to create an income, a secondary income, hopefully passively, by using, horizontally integrated manufacturers to supply what initially started as hinges, by the way. We patented hinges first, and I thought that would be the business, and I could have a manufacturer build the hardware and ship it to to my retailers and suppliers. And so I thought, well, then if I could just pick up an extra couple $1,000s a month, I wouldn't have to work 2 fire jobs and then do construction and do whatever else it took to pay my bills every month. So that was the idea, never to leave fire. I even told my chief, he says, "You're going to leave fire?" I'm like, "No, I will not ever. Like, this is my space. I do not want to ever leave it." And of course, when you start, I stayed at fire till we were at $5 million trending, so $400,000 a month in gross revenue before I left fire or took any money to be paid out of Murphy Door. So it took 5 years to trend to that level almost. Well, not quite 4. And that's when I finally exited, was June of 2016. And I started this in December 2012. So you guys can do the math on the growth rate.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Was there something, I don't know, like that inner voice or whatever it was that was telling you to hold off on pulling money out, or like, you got that $5 million mark. Was that a target you set, or like what was maybe
The inner voice
some?
was just experience, right? And
Yeah.
then
Okay.
learning a little bit more, historically, because I've been self-employed and worked at Fire and then,
Hmm.
jobs, I never really had excess cash. When I was young, I had a lot of cash and I wasn't disciplined to invest because you never get old. So you don't, when
Yeah.
you're in your 20s, you don't have to think about your future too much. But then as I sat in the Fire world, I was surprised at how much my 401k was increasing. And I don't want to make it sound like I was getting a lot of money. It was just the
Hmm.
compound value. I was like, man, this
Hmm.
is really growing quite quickly. Well, with the reverse thought process saying, hey, look, if I left by taking money too early out of a too young of a company, you stop the growth bandwidth significantly. I mean, you don't just drop it, you can literally stop it or reverse your growth pattern,
Mm.
right? So if you're thinking about when you start a business and I'm going to put $10,000 in, and that $10,000 was able to grow your company to 100, barring you don't reinvest 10,000 more dollars to grow the company, more than likely you won't even get to 100 in the future. But if you took all your profits you could possibly put into that business for marketing, let's say you put in 25 or 50,000 if you have incredible insane margins, which isn't real, but let's just say if you did
Hmm.
25,000, that would theoretically do to 50 if you were growing at the same rate or getting your same CAC out of your advertising efforts. Then you would go from, 250, you do the same thing. Now you're growing, say you took that other half, now you're at 1.25, and then you do it again, you could compound it to even greater. So I'm thinking, look, I can get by with Fire and I can still do a second Fire job and a construction job and do Murphy Door on the side because it's a horizontally integrated business at the time. My office was at Starbucks on Riverdale Road because they had free
Yeah.
internet for $3 a day
There
of
you go.
coffee, right? And free unlimited refills, by the way. It's a great way
Right
to
on.
start your business. But my thought was just leave it there, let it compound. Don't take any money till the business does not suffer. Its growth rate won't suffer from my debit of my.
Hmm.
So my math was if I took 50,000 out of a $5 million forward look, I'm only taking 1%. So 1% to pay me is enough to not hurt the business in its growth pattern.
Hmm.
And that was my discipline. And truly, people don't do it. It's not because they don't want to, it's that we get that early trophy or we want to
Yeah.
show people that we're successful in our decision. Like it's this pride thing.
Mm.
You're
Hmm.
starting your own business, Kyle. And then your friends and family are like, you're so stupid, dude. You have a great job. Why would you leave your
Yeah.
job? You're dumb. And then immediately you're going to respond with, like, how dumb does this new car look? Huh? And doesn't look
Right.
dumb at all.
Right.
Well, honestly, it's really dumb. So I drove like a 91 Toyota 4Runner and a Stratus for the longest time into Murphy Door. And just because I didn't want the money out, I'm like, I
Hmm.
leave it in. I have an objective hitting 10 million within this amount of time. I can do it and I'm going to do this. And it worked and it will work. No matter who you are or whatever business you're running, I tell people this job is a second job until it can sustain you where you're not stealing half of your baby's milk to live.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to look at a business as a new baby that's just birthed. And if you're going to steal half of its milk, you're going to have a baby that's deficient in growth and probably dumb. So you're going to have a
Hmm.
dumb, premature little
Hmm.
baby that never has the ability to grow. You know what I mean? And that's the scary part. People need the patience and need the discipline to leave every bit of capital in the business so it can grow at the rate or at a faster rate than anybody else. And it's pretty easy to do because you're going to find about 1% of the people that are willing to leave all the money in the business and sacrifice by working 2 or 3 jobs to not debit out of that. So if you
Hmm.
want to be a company that does 1 million, which will put you at the top 5% of businesses that don't even hit a million, and then
Right.
if you want to be a company that hits 10 million, you'll be at 0.4% of all businesses, so 1 out of 250. Well, I can tell you this, that more than likely 1 out or 5 out of 100 people will not be able to not take money. Like
Hmm.
it's pretty well assured that 95 of the people are taking the money out of the business too early. Even
Yeah.
more unlikely that people will do that until they hit 5 million, which puts you on a significant compounding growth potential to hit your 10 million factor, right? So if you can ride it that long, if you're in the right business that's scalable and you're disciplined and you understand your marketplace, which by the way, your markets are usually way bigger than you think they are and your potential is
Hmm.
way bigger. I mean, we have a huge planet. So a lot of people in it, we can get where we want to go if you're just disciplined enough to leave the money in, to let the money build your business and quit being a parasite. And
Yeah.
I'm not calling that as a parasite to the business.
Sure.
Just when you're taking money out,
Yeah.
like that just bleeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most people won't identify that leak.
Well, and man, I think you hit on something. I mean, there's a lot of business lessons in there, but there's a big emotional component to that, and you talked about a pride, and I know you've been through a couple episodes, in life's journey where you've seen the opposite of that. And man, there had to be some tension there for you personally, right? I mean, once you got that business to a certain point, kind of throttling back on that desire, so to speak, to show, hey, I have made it, right? I
Well, I
did
did
climb the
that.
mountain, so to speak.
Right? When I
Yeah,
was 18 and I made my first 60,000 in a week, immediately I went and bought a brand new Ram because I needed to
yeah,
show all my cowboy buddies, like,
right.
look, bro, I got a new Cummins diesel in 1995 when nobody has them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I did it. And then I spent all the money doing the same thing for the next several years without just letting the business do its thing. Right. And so it still grew significantly, but I was just taking all the money. And if
Yeah,
you think you grew a business to $20 million in mid 90s, you would definitely see that would have been much bigger if I wasn't this massive leech on the side of it.
yeah,
Like, man, what could it have been if I would have invested everything into infrastructure and awareness so my clients knew what we did around the country with literally a white glove from Home Depot saying, go to work and sell to every one of my stores all over the country. As a kid, I was just like, man, no, I want to go on private planes and I want to go to every party and I want the nicest car so I can show people I'm successful at this young age because I'm looking
mm-hmm.
for girls now,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
security in my future.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was the problem.
Yeah,
Truly. And so because of that experience, and I think that's where my cheat code comes in. Like people look at it, well, you went bankrupt, lived in your car. I'm saying, well, that's my edge.
sure.
That's my edge. Like I've already had all the stuff and I realized it was super empty, non-fulfilling, and didn't come to the end result I was hoping for. So
Mm-hmm.
what caused the end result that I received and what would have given me a different end result? Well, that's pretty simple. Don't be a parasite. Leave all the money in. Let the business become mature enough to where you're no longer stealing half the milk. You're stealing 1% of the milk. More
Yeah,
than likely, if you only have to take 1% of your baby's milk, you spill that every day anyway, they'll never
right,
know.
right,
So
right.
that's my thought in it. And I feel like I had this cheat.
Yeah. What lessons carried over from the firehouse maybe into current life, or how you
Oh, yeah.
approach running your day-to-day business, all that
That's
good
a good
stuff?
question. So, what I didn't have in my 18-year-old startup phase is obviously there was no accounting experience. There was
Mhm.
no accountability experience. There was no standard operating procedures, no standard operating guidelines, no span of control, no chain of command. There was just me. And I was in charge of everything and I decided everything. And then there was like this no trust thing. Like I'm the smartest because I'm here. Well, what the
Mhm.
fire world teaches you is all of those things: span of control, chain of command, standard operating procedures, standard operating guidelines, throughput, margin, time on call, KPI, like all the things that they may not even realize they're learning as firefighters. We're just punching
Mhm.
dots and filling in our paperwork, right? We're doing our reports and we don't realize what data they're starting to accumulate. Well, because I'd been 18 before and now I was in their, mid 30s and late in 40s as I was learning all this stuff, I realized what the data was able to do. Like there's a ton of data here. And so what I did when I left fire is I took all those metrics of like, here's what a true span of control looks like. You can manage 3 to 5, 5 to 7 people at the most. And why is there a captain for every one of that amount? And why is there a battalion chief for every one of this amount? And why is there a chief over this? And why is there, a paramedic lead and right, emergency services manager and a fireman, a fire chief, that not just the fire chief, but the battalion chief over fire
Yeah.
deputy chief.
Yep.
So I started looking at that and I said, well, how does that really relate to business? And what it does, even if you're 18 or 19, is it teaches you things you may not realize you're learning, but all those little things that they do so well. And fire really is just a replication of
Mhm.
military structure. And then if you think about it, even religion, like the
Mhm.
Mormon church here in Utah, the
Mhm.
same thing. You've got a president, and then you got 3, and then you've got 12, and then you've got 70, right? So
Mhm.
then you see how this is all managed. But everything has guidelines, which I didn't have. And so I'm like, look, how do I have expectations that aren't published? How do I hold people to published expectations?
Mhm.
How do I manage that many people? And then the biggest thing that I learned was trust. And by the way, the trust didn't necessarily come from fire in your face idea. It was like, look, you're over safety, you're in attack, you're with Rick, you're the medical lead, whatever. Like each one of
Mhm.
those, and then you'd go to the lead that was over those and could answer for the team. I didn't recognize that was being taught until I'd hired my deputy chief's dad, which was a past captain. And I
Okay.
was running calls, like literally taking 911 calls with lights and sirens going, like, okay, as soon as I'm done with this cardiac arrest, I'll call you back and take your door order. Like that's how that
Yeah.
went. right? And
Yeah.
I had a great fire department that was tolerant of me doing that. But
Mhm.
it was my captain finally, or excuse me, my production manager, his name was Von Draheim. He said, "Hey, dude, like I gave him authority to give credit back to customers for $250. Any
Okay.
amount greater than $250 had to come through me." Well, our average ticket was $2,500, $3,000. Well, so he basically couldn't do anything other than like refund shelves, for example. And then, I was his bottleneck or his 1 lane in a 5 lane freeway. I was his way.
Mhm.
I was stopping or impeding the growth. He called me one day on duty and he's like, "Dude, I got this really mad lady and I need to do something." I'm like, "Let me look at it when I get back." Cause I mean, $3,000 for me was double what I was making monthly at the fire station.
Sure.
So it was detrimental to have a $3,000 credit. And he's like, "Dude, here's the deal. Like, if you don't learn to trust me, class 250, you don't need me. If you need to be involved in every one of these decisions, then you don't need me or I'm not good for you. You either need to learn to trust that I am looking out
Mm.
for the best interest of the business, or you just are going to be unscalable and you will
Right.
not be able to have more than one station. You just can't because you want to be in the middle of it. And if you don't have the right people that are being good stewards of your money, then you have
Mhm.
the wrong people. So if you
Mhm.
want to give me the trust, then I will show you that I deserve it. And you will see that I probably make better decisions than you do if you just trust me.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
remember sitting in the rescue. I remember that day specifically. I'm driving down the road going, "Okay, you can do it." And I'm
Yeah.
just a nervous wreck. And honestly, he settled for less than I would have settled for. Like he
Mhm.
did a better job. So those were just incremental increases of learning how to trust, empower, and scale. And
Yeah.
it really came back to he referred to fire in his conversation. Like if you're going to be over attack, then dude, you need to let me be over attack. You can't be attacked from the truck.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
just got to let me be here. And I got
Mhm.
to make decisions on the fly, and you're not letting me. So what was surprising, all this stuff, I obviously wasn't taking notes every day. It's when I was starting into the Murphy door trend, I'm like, man, I can cheat. I can use these SOPs and create my own SOPs that are relative to me. And then I can create my own SOGs that are relative to Murphy door like that. And then I
Right.
can use this span of control by my hiring chain this way. And then the chain of command, this is how they'll respond. So I truly built the tree or our hierarchy tree off of
Mhm.
what the firehouse had. I'd get on there. They have a little web thing that you get on and they have their printed book. And I'd be like, "Okay, so that's
Yeah.
me. And this is Curtis. And this is Sandra. And I mean, it was awesome. And I think we have such an opportunity to use what's already been there. And we don't need to reinvent everything as an entrepreneur. There is so many
Yeah.
frameworks that are already successful that we can just emulate.
It seems like for a lot of folks, founders especially, I mean, that's the hardest thing to make a transition to, right? Is that tight grip that you have. And it's interesting that you made the comparison between fire and military. I would say it's absolutely correct. And a lot of people have this misconception that, the military is very top down and command and control. And there's moments when that can
They have to be.
happen. Right. For the most part, it is decentral. It's a balance, right? It is decentralized, and you've deferred decision making and authority down to its lowest level. With that, though, you have structure, standards, and accountability, so you know kind of where those left and right limits are, and so that's how those things dance really nicely together.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's really interesting that you took that. I would also just say that conversation that he had with you that one day, where he's like, "Hey, man, you gotta give me some latitude on this to be able to make the call." Like that's, he had to have a little bit of trust in you to have that conversation probably, and for you to be able to process that, not kind of take it the wrong way too.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, that's another thing that maturity has brought to me is
Mm.
maybe it's age, maybe it's a lack of maturity, but age. I don't know which one it is.
We'll
But
take it.
is truly like I don't get offended. I don't get my
Yeah.
feelings hurt. Like
Hmm.
people want to attack and be angry. I literally had a hole fixed in my drywall the other day because he was one of my guys. My chief revenue officer was so mad at the customer, he punched a wall. He's like, "Dude, I owe you some money." I'm like, "No, punch a wall. I don't give two craps. Like, if that's what you need to do." He's like, "I
Yeah.
can't believe I didn't get fired for that." I'm like, "Why? Because you're angry? Like, let
Yeah.
it out on my drywall. I'd much rather let you have it out in my
Yeah.
office than take it out at home on your kids or your dog or your
Right.
wife or something. Like,
Right.
just let it out." And they can come in, call me names, do whatever. I don't fire for that. And everybody on my team knows they can have very heartfelt, angry conversations here. And
Hmm.
it doesn't affect me to the point where I'm losing any sleep. And I think another thing is I'm way past worrying about if anybody likes me. I've gotten way
There you
past
go.
that in my life. I'm not here. I'm not for everyone. I understand that. And maybe
Yep.
half the people like me and half the people don't. And that's wonderful. I'm thankful for the half that do. But even if there was less than half that did like me, I would still not change it. Like
Yeah.
the sooner we can stop caring what other people think about us, the sooner we'll find peace and happiness. Like
Hmm.
as long as we're happy with who we are and what we're doing and our own moral compass, like we don't have to have the aligned moral compass with other people, but whatever we find peace in our moral levels, then that's okay. Like they can love us, hate us for who we are. It should make no difference in your day. Now, of course, we want more people to like us because it feels good, but ultimately it only feels good for the moment we're transacting with that person verbally or financially, but ultimately we're sleeping with ourself at night
Right.
and we die by ourselves more than likely and we're birthed by ourselves more than likely, right? So we'd be silly to think that we should spend our life making everyone else happy when we're the ones that have to die by ourselves with our own decisions and our own thing that we have to be okay with. And I know that we discussed sleep prior to this podcast, but it's so
Hmm.
hard to get sleep sometimes. Sleep is a very rare commodity for me. You can
Hmm.
have money and not sleep is not related. I buy the nicest pillows and sheets I can afford
Right.
and mattress that I can afford. And sometimes I sleep better on our ladder. Like
Hmm.
it doesn't find it. So literally I spend more time worrying about like what would make me lose sleep. If this decision would affect me at night, I'm not making the decision. And if I just have to pay somebody this so I don't have to think about the problem, then it's out of my hair. Because I truly value the level of peace I have. And if I transact with someone incorrectly or I'm on the wrong side of the moral compass of my personal feelings, that'll bother me at night. And I don't need
Hmm.
anything else bothering me at night.
Hmm.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So that's kind of my
Completely.
gauge.
I
It's
love
just,
that, man. That's really well said. Yeah, I mean, and those are the principles that have to go with leadership. Those are things that we all kind of shake our head and agree to, but that's what you got to hold yourself to. And as you just said, in a position of leadership, especially running an organization, you're not going to make everybody happy, and you're not going to be successful if that's your goal.
and it's hard too because you love everyone. Like we have over 100 people, Kyle. We had this
Hmm.
discussion in this Monday morning's meeting. I'm like, look, there's everyone here I love. Now, I can't tell you every person's name, but I can tell you every person's feelings. Like, not that I know but they're worried about their kids, their family, their house, their car, their food, their soccer, their basketball, volleyball, whatever their kids are into, and their shoes and their kids' clothes and Christmas and, all the things. So I don't have to know their names to know what they have personally stressed out at home about. And when
Hmm.
you're having to make tough decisions and like have hard conversations, those weigh heavy and they should. Like, but at the same time, you do have to have hard conversations. If you're in a position where you're looking at what scale should be for your current moments and managing your revenue per employee as tight as you need to, sometimes you have to look at those underperformers regardless of what level their stress is at home. You can't let that stress come over and impact the stress levels of your team members and drawing back or down your revenue per employee based on their lack of output or effort
Yep.
with the excuse of them going through something at home. It's like, look,
Hmm.
we can work with you for a period, man, but I
Hmm.
can't carry you forever. Like, I'm
Hmm.
okay if you have to shoulder up for a week, 2 weeks, a month, or whatever. We're here for you. We're family at the best we can, business family.
Hmm.
But at the same time, dude, now you're actually becoming a draw and a negative impact to the business. And I can appreciate, respect, and honor what you're going through, but I can't have you affect us anymore. So what we're going to do is make a decision to do this. Now,
Yeah.
never fun because you want everybody to have this place that they call
Hmm.
home, right? And work and they're happy with it and comfortable and feel safe, but really it's accountability of their own actions that they have to be in for and understand that they did have an input or an impact on the reason why the decision of exiting or separating is. And most people won't take that accountability, as we know. They was like, well, it's his fault and my family and my wife or my kid and I've got this and my car, whatever.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, all of us that work here have something. We just gauge and separate differently.
Yeah.
And that was part of the deal today. I'm like, look, man, we just have to have those hard conversations. You just do.
Right.
It's tough.
Right. Right. Yep. Yeah, and that is leadership, right? That's what we're held to, and what we're paid to do is make those hard calls. Speaking of hard calls, maybe a transition here. If we fast forward a little bit, or rewind, I guess, back to 2016. We were talking about this, and you guys went through a pretty significant kind of setback around UPS and reclassifying shipments. I mean, that
Oh
was
boy.
at time like you're like you're telling me like at that time, I didn't think we're going to make it.
It
Can you
was like a
maybe,
bankruptcy phone call, Kyle.
okay.
That
Yeah.
was
So
that level.
walk me through that. Like what was that like in those 30 days of just kind of fighting for your life from a business perspective?
Well, so to give you an idea, like to
Yeah.
set the baseline, Fedora in 2016's trending to $4.5 million, $5 million that year. We should close on I think from like March till March of 2017, we'd do 5 million, right? That would be
Mm-hmm.
the trend. So probably close the year of 2016 at 4.2, I think. I think we closed at 4.4 actually. It, I also wasn't taking any money for Murphy Door yet. This was like February,
Mm.
March of 2016, no
Okay.
paycheck yet. So my net living is 762 at that time.
Mm.
Every 2 weeks, by the way. So 1530 every month, plus whatever I did extra, which by the way is 240 hours a month at the fire station. So you guys know it's
Yeah.
not the same as 160-hour a month. All right. So you got to take that into consideration. I get a phone. Freight works in different ways. So not to get into the way you price freight, but lead's the cheapest to ship. It's small and dense. A really expensive thing, consider a plastic water bottle that's empty. Very expensive, a lot of space, no weight. So freight companies charge accordingly based on volume or weight. And now Murphy Door, initially, we call ourselves a bookcase until they're hung into a door jamb where they become a door. But we are a bookcase unless we're hung in the way or fashion of a door. Well, we'd been working with a bunch of domestic shippers, Old Dominion and all these things. Well, UPS came in and they did a bid rate, UPS freight. So not their small parcel, but freight came in and said, hey, we're going to bid you out a per pallet move and we'll give you a nationwide pricing if this. So they came in, they spent 6 months bidding it out and they came in at like $165 a pallet, no matter where they go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is awesome. I'm going to go to UPS freight. Well, that was based on like a freight code 85, which basically says if you're shipping what they would call 100% freight, that's equal to $1 per 100. So I'm getting a slight discount because it's a bookcase and it's 85% of normal billable rate. Now, when the inspectors saw it, they saw the brand Murphy Door and they said, inspected the project and found to be a door. So that changed the class code from an 85 to a 300 plus. I can't remember if it was 325 or 350, which means you're 350 times the regular value ship rate. So then it took the freight rate. Not only did we lose the discount bid rate because they felt like it was a fraudulent stacking claim of an 85 class code. They thought that, so it went to anywhere from $650 up to $1,000 a pallet, which we only charged our customers $165.
Oof.
UPS had shipped 60 products. Instead of being 60 times 165, it was 60 times 600 to 1,000.
Oh.
So there was like almost $60,000 in freight. I don't remember the exact number, but it was like 50 to 60,000. Well, when I was expecting it to be whatever that is call it $8,000 to that. I'm like, dude, I had no extra capital. I had none. So I was working with like I said, I'd worked with Old Dominion, and Old Dominion came in and they said, hey, look, by the way, we did fight UPS. We did win it in court. They did spend 6 months. They had their inspectors. They had all the opportunity. We didn't have to pay that bill, but I did not have 165 freight any longer. I still had a bunch of doors that I had to ship. Can't remember. It was like 80 or more that I had to ship that were going to be in that $400 to $500 to $600 to $700 box when I'd only charged 165. So not only was I afraid of that 50 to 60,000 before, but I'm afraid of all the extra that we're going to be spending. So Old Dominion said, hey, if you go to Kentucky or that area somewhere back east, Nashville, anywhere in that East Coast, you can cross dock over there. I mean, you've got FedEx over there, you've got UPS, you've got a lot of these global hubs sitting in that corner between Memphis and between Lexington and Cincinnati. That's a big distribution component. So I'm like, all right, well, I don't know anything about it, but I used a pin and a needle and a string, and I was using a 600 radius mile string length that I just took across the bottom of a map. And I moved my needle, and why 600 radius miles? It's because that's 1 day freight at 10 hours and 60 miles an hour. That's how my brain works. I'm like, okay, if I have a semi truck going 60 and they can drive 11 hours, but realistically they're going to only get 10 with fuel and some inspection time, that'll give me 600 miles for 1 day freight lane. So I'm like, well, I used a pin. I moved the pin around and I used the string, and I just made circles until I found conversing highways, east to west and north to south, and distance. So once I narrowed in, it landed right in Lexington, Kentucky. I bought a plane ticket to go, didn't buy a plane. I bought a plane ticket to go to Lexington, went in there, and keep in mind, man, I was bankrupt in 2010. So I have terrible credit.
Yeah.
I have no business that's making really any money to speak of. My personal financials are that of a fire station.
Yeah, not a ton
right?
of options,
So
right?
what
I
am I
mean,
personal guaranteeing, right? The
yeah,
guys. So I went in Kentucky. Unfortunately, GE, all these big companies owned all the warehouses I was looking at.
yeah,
There was not one person willing to do it, and I'm like, dude, this is bankrupt city. I'm calling my wife. I'm sitting at a steakhouse, and I'm like, as long as I'm going broke, I'm going all in broke with the broken steak. I'm going to eat
mhm,
good today.
mhm,
So I went into Malone's. I was sitting in a little bar area that they call Harry's inside Malone's that has like, if you're not sitting at a big table in the fancy restaurant, you can get a steak out here. So I'm talking to my wife on the phone. The phone call is overheard by a gentleman named John Paul Miller. And he's like, hey man, I heard you're looking for space. Why don't you come sit down? It was me and his wife and him, or excuse me, his wife, or his wife and myself and him. And he just said, hey, I own a lot of real estate. Let me hear your story. He told me I could do that. Let me work with you. He said, I can show you a building. Took me there. He said, that's $7,000 a month. I said, dude, I can't do half that. I can't
right,
afford half that.
right,
And he's like, oh, 3,500. I'm like, no, I mean, I can't even afford that. I mean,
mhm,
literally. So he worked it through and took me to where I had very little rent up front, even no deposit. And then he worked with me to escalate rents to the back end of my lease to where I got him square. So that guy's belief in me saved my bacon. And what that does, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is we're now cross-docking. So I took those 80 doors, shipped them to Lexington. On my days off, I bought a plane ticket, went to Lexington, took the dense full semi-load, broke them down and put them on separate pallets. So all I had to do when I got there was I have a dock, back the dock up, bought a pallet jack, and I bought a whole bunch of pallets from local suppliers, took the 4 doors off of one pallet and moved them to 4 separate pallets, strapped them back up and shipped them on singular semis, which then brought my freight within $50 to $100 of my bid rate of what I'd priced
dang,
them at.
yeah,
So that in itself, did I lose a little money? Yes. Nothing that a credit card couldn't handle, like $8,000 in overage or whatever. But it wasn't 80,
mhm,
right? Or 60. Like those are unsurmountable hurdles. There's some that aren't. I mean, and again, you can sit there and cry or you can take action. And I think when you get older, when I was younger, I would have folded and hidden and not answered the phone anymore. Now that I'm older, it's like, okay, then I can sit there and try my milk. I learned how that looked. It doesn't
mhm,
work. You live in your car for a year and you go bankrupt. So now take the bull by the horns, call every customer, let them know the freight's going to be delayed and this is what's going on. And then you make action to right it. And then listen to mentors like your Dominion rep. He may be just a sales manager, but he can give you best logistical rates. And don't try to outsmart that out the gate when you have emergent
mm,
moves that you need to take. Take that advice, run with the advice. You're going to qualify the idea, disqualify it in the field. If you can't disqualify it, execute it, and then go forward. That
yeah.
was
And just that, like, having the mindset to have a conversation with a Dominion rep and not look at him like just a salesperson, and maybe credit to him because he's able to build a relationship, trusting relationship where he's like your partner. I
exactly.
mean, that like you do business with people that you trust and with folks that are going to help you solve problems when it counts. I mean, that's a key piece there too, I think.
Well, and look how important it is to ask for advice when you're young, and I don't mean age-wise, but in business.
Sure.
Sometimes we think we're smarter than nobody knows that my business. It's my business, not your business. My business, Kyle, is different than your business because we do this. I'm like, no, we're the
Mhm.
exact same thing. You just make
Mhm.
cookies, I make doors, or you make cars, I make doors. We have the same model. We just
Mhm.
don't give it credit. And I think the wisdom comes from being able to ask great questions from people that have been there and not be embarrassed. And one of the things that I told my son, I have a problem with road rage a little bit, like a
Mhm.
lot. So
Mhm.
I have an issue with like Idaho plates in the fast lane. Just FYI, if you have an Idaho plate, get the hell out of the fast lane. Go in the slow lane. Get out of my way. So, and Subaru drivers, like my daughter, like stay out of the fast lane. You can't go that fast. It's 2.1 liter. Like just stay the hell out of the fast lane.
There you go.
So, long story short, we were driving down the road and I noticed my son's road rage matching mine.
Mm.
Right. So this little thing matters, but I just said, look, well, right now I can tell that you just want to ram this dude. And then, right. So let's play this
Mhm.
out. Let's say that this guy you get in front of him, slam the brakes. He gets in front of you, slam the brakes. And then you go out and then all of a sudden you want to fight him. We're going all the rounds. So we're doing this.
Mhm.
So we go follow
Mhm.
him off the exit. He stops, you stop, you run up to the car because you want to smash his face in. He rolls down the window and he says, help. Now,
Mhm.
what's your response? You punching that dude? You're like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do to help you, dude? I
Yep.
didn't know you were having an emergency. Well, yeah, I tried to stop you on the freeway, but you weren't paying attention. You just kept getting
Mhm.
angrier and angrier. And I just need your help. I'm having this XYZ problem. Same thing goes for business, man. Like help is
Absolutely.
one of the most powerful words in the human language. And
Yeah.
nobody is going to judge you like you think they're going to judge you if you say, I need help.
Yeah.
They will give you their everything and every bit of their education, knowledge, and experience to help you navigate that. And by the way, they won't think you're weak, right? We worry about the hate or being teased, but all that stuff comes from below. Nobody
Hmm.
that's bigger or has created a better business or a bigger business, more mature business is hating on you for trying. It's
Yeah,
everybody else below you that hasn't, that is. So those
absolutely.
guys will help you. Go find those guys, ask for their experience and their advice. They are there. They will help to the best of their ability. If they have the bandwidth, they will do it without a question.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, and just so well said. And I would also say in the moment, facing that problem, like, as we say, steer into the wind, so to speak, and putting yourself there in that moment and just working through it created that, we call it serendipity or whatever, but there's a knock-on effect when you're actually working the problem set, you're confronting it, and these opportunities will a lot of times present themselves, maybe not the way you thought they would, versus avoiding it, because a lot of folks will avoid or maybe put their head in the sand, whatever that looks like for them, and either hope that it goes away or delay taking action on it, and that never plays out the way that you think it would. So kudos to you. You know, maybe I'm curious, is there a just generally speaking, and maybe looking back, was there an important conversation that maybe you avoided having for too long, and that it ended up costing you something from a business perspective, or just something
Are
that
you
was going
talking
on
about
that,
during Murphy Door or in my life that taught me
yeah,
that?
just generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah. So with the shed company, when I was doing that and supplying all the Home Depots,
Mhm.
I was super undisciplined with cash. Like
Okay.
just I wasted it. I also trusted the wrong people. Like I thought I was the reason, it really dilapidated is I thought I was selling what we thought was a franchise, but of course there's laws that go in franchise law and I didn't know that. I was just 20 some odd years old.
Mhm.
I decided I didn't want the Phoenix operation. It was too much. I'd rather date somebody. I hadn't been on dates forever. I mean, dates, meaning like a serious one, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, yeah,
there was
yeah.
overnighters or 20-minuters, but it wasn't like that. So
Right.
I'm like, look, I really want to just take my life more serious. I'm going to sell this operation and figure out a piece that I can make money monthly and not have to operate it. Well, I didn't realize I just couldn't sell it like that. And between that and not being disciplined with cash caused a compounding effect. One, he closed down. I had to sue to get that kind of righted. Two, I had all these bills that I hadn't paid. So rather than making the phone calls to the wood suppliers, to the customers, to you name all the people that were my landlord, they started calling when I was late. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, no way. I'm not answering. Then they started coming to the office. Well, instead, I'd just lock the office door. Well, then they'd figure out I was in the office and then they'd just stay there till I'd leave. So then I just quit going to the office. So it was just like, it was truly stick my head in the sand and run.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been, like we talked about earlier last time we spoke, but it was like one thing I learned is if I'm progressively calling all the bad news first before they even know there's bad news, and I let them know, hey, look, you can't get paid on Friday. Not only is it not going to be this Friday, but it probably won't be the next Friday or the following. If we're
Mhm.
lucky, we're 30 days out. But what we need to do is work together because I'm not giving up and figure out a plan that we can keep wood coming in. Because obviously, if I don't have wood, I can't get to the point where we've righted your ship. But here's my working forward look, and it looks great. I have a ton, and that's the funny part, a ton of work.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the cash to buy the material or, excuse me, to pay the account to get the material. And
Mhm.
if I would have just communicated that, I more than likely would have had it. Now, here's the funny part, at 50 years old and being in business for that point, now the stuff that killed my business back then literally crosses my desk every day. And I don't even have a blood elevation or a stress level increase. It just doesn't do anything to me because
Mhm.
it's so minute and such a major part of daily conversations. Not
Yeah.
saying that we can't pay our bills, by the way. It's
Sure.
just, hey, we're not returning your door and we're not giving you a refund. I'm
Right.
really sorry. I
Right.
mean, we don't want a one-star review, but here's all the reasons why we can't do it.
Mhm.
Because you've installed it, you've used it for 2 years, and then you went ahead and did this, or you had a flood, and I'm sorry, but that's not under warranty.
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
kind of things. And it's all the things that we're afraid of doing the hard calls. So one thing I've learned is to do the hardest calls first thing in the morning, get them
Mhm.
out of the way, and then the rest of the day can become great rather than waiting till the last call of the day and
Dreading it.
then not
Yeah.
being able
Yeah.
to sleep and having stress and going home angry at your wife or whatever. Like it just doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and in business, there'll be another one coming, right? So just getting used
every day,
to to
if
to
you're
dealing
busy,
with it.
right?
Absolutely.
If
Yeah.
you're growing and you're scaling and you're in the people's mindset or you're in their focus, you
Yeah.
should and will have bad things
Yeah.
happen every single day.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm talking bad things like a mill goes down or the
Yeah.
paint supplier's out of paint or a truck rolled or you have an
Sure.
accident with one of your guys. Like that stuff happens and you just,
Mhm.
okay, well, is everybody okay? And then what's the solution? So your levers, what do we have?
I mean,
For
you telling me, Jeremy, every day people just don't give you roses and tell you all the good things that are going on in your business?
I
That's
haven't
weird,
had
you
roses
know?
in so long, Kyle. I didn't even get any for you for Christmas. You know what I mean? Like
I know I
I
was gonna
was
talk
waiting
to you
by my
about that, man.
front door forever. Son of a gun.
Speaking of, you guys are rocking and rolling this year, just on a tear, and then it's September. All of a sudden, you guys kind of hit this flat line, and it was something that you kind of figured out. Why don't you kind of break that down? What happened?
Man,
How
that
did you figure that out? What was going on?
so yeah, we started the first quarter at 113% growth.
Hmm.
Massive. Now keep in mind, we manufacture everything we make. So if we sell it to you outside of electronics, we make it, right? So that scale level, when you're talking 113%, this isn't doubling operational facilities. This is more than that. So we manufacture, that's equipment, that's all this stuff. So this is a really, really hard pace to do. And that's why you probably need to be calculative on how much growth you want when you're the
Hmm.
sole manufacturer and you're not using horizontal integrated factories. But went through that first quarter crush, second quarter crush. We're just seeing these massive increases and not just increases, but increasing increases. So it just kept going and going and going. Well, I got complacent and got sidetracked. So I also have a large real estate portfolio.
Hmm.
That's another business that I've started in since 2018. We got another big project that we bought in Kentucky. And I was focusing on what do we need to do to address it and adjust it and get occupants and do all the things. Well, I usually come in every day and I look at four things. Like it's pretty simple. What was my revenue per employee? What's our forecasted output today? What's our targeted sales? And then how are we sitting in Google? Like I look at our platforms. You'll dig into SEMrush or ARush or whatever you want, all these different platforms that you can see metrics on. Well, I got sitting on my laurels because our numbers were just like, it wasn't just this. It was like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just
Yeah.
a steady growth line. We're just seeing stuff that was abnormally great. So it's like, I don't have to babysit that very much,
Yeah.
right? That's not something I care about. There's stress over here, so we chase fire. Well, all of a sudden September's numbers come in, and I'm like, oh, those were lackluster. Like that didn't crush. Like the month before, we were at 67% growth, and this month we're at 4. Like, where did that happen? Of course, well, it's back to school and maybe it's this. And then the
Right.
Federal Reserve said they weren't lowering interest. And then the stock market's shaky and we work with the top 1%. So you know how they are. They might be fickle.
Hmm.
So you're finding reasons on all the stuff that is making you justify your lack of growth. And by the way,
Hmm.
everybody else in our industry is at a negative this year. And we should be thankful that we're at such
Yeah.
a positive. So don't pay
A
attention
lot
to
of
that. We
noise.
just had a lot of noise. Well, then all of a sudden October's numbers come in and we're like, man, this is really brutal. It wasn't quite as bad as that September month year over year, but it was still flat. Like we lost the 60, 70% momentum and all of a sudden we're flat. That's a big, big deal. And I'm like, oh, well, and then of course you got your sales team and there was all sorts of issues inside the sales side. Our internet was too slow, too many sales guys. The phone systems didn't work. Ring's having an issue. Like there was always a
Yeah.
justifiable excuse, right?
Hmm.
We changed the pricing model. We increased paint, let it settle in, like a lot of moving parts. Well, then November hits and I'm like, okay, then I got my financials for November and then I'm able to see a chart, right? So
Yeah.
you're seeing this and then all of a sudden it was a literal light switch and then a
Oh man.
stabilization on the long tail keywords. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? Well, now we're way too far in, right? It's literally lost 90 days of progress. And
Mm.
so it's to the point where now it looked at a negative, year over year, the last quarter is negative 9% is what it
Hmm.
settled out at the end of, or where we're sitting at lifetime for just the quarter. Now, year over year, we're still
Sure.
at almost 35 or 40%. Like
Hmm.
haven't settled in those numbers yet, but it'll be there. But it's a significant decline from what we were doing. And I hired what is the word I'm looking for? A forensic, somebody forensic to come in and do an audit, a forensic audit
Yeah.
on all
Yep.
the stuff, which was crazy. So I find out that Google had an algorithm change that got rid of long tail keywords, and a lot of it has to do with large language models and protecting data from going over to the competitors and Chat GPT and so forth that they can't tie in, and it'll have a negative effect on the way they track it inside Google. So that matters. Then in addition to that, there was an attack that we had in April. Then we had an attack in August, and then another one on Black Friday that was a negative keyword SEO backlink attack. So I
Dang.
know that's probably Chinese to a bunch of people. It was to me. Like, what does that mean? It means that somebody got into doing a whole bunch of stuff that fed negative backlinks, making your links hit to negative stuff that actually hurt your Google ranking.
Wow.
Right. So then we got discounted and punitively hurt by Google because of all
Yeah.
these backlinks, which we couldn't see. Now, here's the other mistake that we've made. We got rid of our SEO managers early on in the year and said, let's come in-house with SEO. Well, my SEO manager wasn't just solely dedicated SEO. He was also a full stack developer, a UX UI guy, and this and this and this and this, right? Because it's easy to throw like shotgun approaches to our employees that are great.
Yeah.
Then when you do that, you throw these shotgun bullets, like they're trying to catch a million things. Now they
Yeah.
don't feel they're good, like they're even good. So they're
Right.
always stressed that they're under delivering and they're not doing a great job for you. And so he wasn't able to see that either. And why didn't he see it? Well, it's because it was a number that I reported on every day. Hey man, I noticed this downturn. What's on it? Found this, fix. And because I stopped looking at that and stopped being concerned about it because our growth was just fun and I didn't feel like, you get your eye off the ball, people figure it out, and then all of a sudden they can do whatever they want. We had a great, end of year meeting saying, hey, here's all the great news. We had massive growth still in comparison to other people in our industry this year.
Yeah.
Here's the other good news. We have all these things identified on what hurt us. So the bad and scary part, I stressed to my team, let's not just settle on our laurels and figure that's the only thing that affected us. We
Right.
don't want to just find one problem and think that that's the only problem. Let's keep digging to find out what else it can be and not just say, hey, found it. It was just one mouse. We caught the mouse. We're good. And not there's a whole bunch of mice in the house. You just didn't know because you thought it was one because they all look the same. But at the end of the day, the look the same for us is a declining sales growth pattern. So here's the beautiful part. One is we've identified several and are going to look for more. Two, that we've learned how to not sit on our laurels. Three, we're in a very big, strong, growing market, and the market's gotten much bigger than it was when we first started. We owned, close to 80% of the market share. What used to be 90 prior to this attack, by the way, we were 92% of search, fallen down to almost 80, not quite 80. So think about what can happen if you take the ball off your eye off the ball for 90 days. Can we get it back? Absolutely. Is it going to take tomorrow? No, it's going to take 60 to 180 days to get us back to where we were. So, the thing that I like to look at is like, where did we fail? How do we prevent those failures in the future rather than get mad and punch people and fire people and all that stuff?
Right.
Overall, ultimately, as you know, this is 100% my fault. Why? Because I didn't have anybody reporting to those metrics. I didn't have anybody responsible for those terms. And it's on me. Like everything that went down at the end of the day sits in the top seat.
Yeah.
So I can't go in there and yell. All I can do is go present to them my 8-page document that I just have on my desk over there that says, hey, here's what I did this weekend, by the way. Here's all the great news. We've opened 2 manufacturing facilities, new hardware, new deal, fully automated mill. We've done all the hard parts. Now we just need to right this ship, never miss that ball again, and make sure that we get full KPIs or full throughput out of these factories. So the hard part's done. We've identified some issues. We know what we can learn from. We can learn faster and execute quicker. And by the way, quit shotgun approaching or quit giving so much stuff to every single employee. Let's do some laser approach. Let's do sniper approach is what I used. I'm like 150 caliber bullet, one at a time. You can get 5 things done. Just work on one at a time rather than me asking them about 5 different things at the same time, which again is my fault. I have ADD really bad. And I think throwing a whole bunch of projects or ideas at people is a great thing. And it just isn't. So my commitment for 26 to my team is that I will work much better on doing highly focused, hyper thought out ideas that have times that don't mean to be always the most important thing because it was my idea last night.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of a good setup, as you're gonna push now from 8 to 9 figures, there's some constraints there that you have to solve for, and that's a good example of one of them. I'm curious, do you have a feel like is there a constraint that could stop you, people, process, or demand that might be more important than the other?
All three of those could potentially stop us, right? So we have to look
Mhm.
at what each of those can be and how you mitigate or increase. So, for example, if it's a demand issue, I would argue strongly that it's not a demand issue, and I don't mean in my
Mhm.
category. I mean in any category. It's your lack of being able to identify the right customer or avatar for your product or service that you're giving your clients, and not thinking big enough or messaging correctly for an avatar that may be the same that hears things differently. So
Mhm.
we need to make sure we're trying different messages approach, beta testing different messages, different images, and making sure that they're understanding at the level they digest whatever it is that you're selling or servicing. So that's one. Make sure you don't do. So it's an easy out to say the market's not big enough or there is a demand issue.
Yeah.
There's just a lack of demand for what you're pitching, the way you're pitching it.
Mhm.
There's always the demand. There's too many people in this country that have money that whatever it is you're selling, I don't care if it's a trinket, you can still get to $1 million, like no
Yeah.
matter what. It's you just don't know how to pitch it to that.
Mhm.
And to 10 million for sure. I think any business can get to 10 million no matter what. It's just how do you do it, right? And
Yeah.
I also think so back to the throughput component. Throughput currently, our capacity can handle about 80 million in its current state without the Dallas plant that we've got ready to set up, which has been delayed until we have these things set up, by the way. Decision of as of today.
Mhm.
And then so your first one was, is it a demand? Is it throughput or is it
People
manpower?
pro Yep.
Yep, people processes. Yep, that's it. So, and people, here's the thing, we have a great team. So I don't think the people in their skill set currently is the problem. The question
Mhm.
is the focus of my team and the accountability to their metric in their role. And then making sure that we keep our revenue per employee in line with their expectation on a daily basis, weekly
Mhm.
basis, quarterly basis to make sure we hit our year end objective of our RPE requirement. So, this was another thing that I noticed over the last quarter. We let our RPE for the company, we've never been less than, just to give you an idea, in the history of Murphy Door, less than 377,000 RPE so revenue per employee that work here annualized. Currently, we're sitting at 300. So huge hit on SGA increase. So a lot of that is administrative. The
Yep.
manufacturing output was not the issue because they have an increased headcount. The increased headcount is administrative, outbound sales, concierge, customer service, the stuff to build the infrastructure to go to that next stage. We had another issue inside September, by the way, outside of the demand thing. We did an automated factory upgrade in Kentucky as well as our machining. And both of those were supposed to be 30-day implementations that took, one was 90 and Stiles Corporation, great company, really fumbled Kentucky, still frustrated. So
Mm.
Homag Group really sucked at this. Took them over
Really?
120 days to get their systems running right. So
Oh,
I'm,
man.
I'm really questioning if I'll ever use that company again. They did a really bad job of implementing that. And they
Mm.
didn't take accountability, nor did they find the urgency. Hit us for over $1 million in net income
Oh,
for that.
man.
So like I said, there's always excuses. Unfortunately for that, I can't take the accountability. I don't know how to put that machine together. They're German and they could put it in. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. But
Yeah.
ultimately, those are always constraints. But I believe if anybody, and I think most entrepreneurs are a lot like me, we want to tackle a lot of things and we expect everybody to be us, and they're not.
Mm.
But one thing that they do want to do for us is please us. So
Mhm.
they don't want to say no and they don't want to disagree to our deadlines. But you'll see that they don't hit the deadlines and they don't find priority. And that's the
Yeah.
issue. So we need to learn how to be a sniper level on
Yeah.
what they bring to the table and how to execute it one at a time with completeness and perfection rather than do pretty good at a whole bunch
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
bad, right?
Yeah, yeah. You can dilute your talent pretty quick, or end up hiring, management staff, and they're not upskilling their delivery levels, right? So that creates a compounding effect from a team performance perspective.
You know what's
Maybe as
interesting
we,
along those lines, Kyle? I'm not to
yeah,
cut you
man,
off. I'm sorry. Did
no,
you want to
all good.
go?
Keep
So
going, man.
here's what I think about. If we don't keep track of good KPIs, like have an
Yep.
expectation for our people, it's easy for the people in each one of those, let's call it, I don't like calling it silos, but let's call it a team.
Mm-hmm.
Like that says, hey, we just need another helper. It's
Mm-hmm.
just too much work to get through this cell. So we just need more workers. Okay, great. Well, let's say they're putting through 100 pieces a day. Well, they always have done 100 pieces a day, but they say that they need more to get to, 150 pieces a day.
Yeah.
So you bring in the more people. Well, all of a sudden you find really quickly, if you're not keeping track of the KPIs, you're going to have the same amount of people with the same amount of unit count, if not less. Right. So what happens then is then all of a sudden they're not growing and they're like, well, we still need one more person. So what happens is now you've gone from a 2-person headcount to a 4-person headcount with no increased output. And if you don't have something to measure it against, you don't have an argument to say, no, the output is this or the revenue per employee is declining. And that was something that was pretty wide open, or eye-opening to me. Like every time we were onboarding in a certain department here, the output didn't change, but the cost per unit doubled. Like we started with one, said, hey, we need another person. Well, we still got, this particular department had 66 units per week. Well, this is in a different marketing strategy. So it went to still 66 units. Their argument, it was quality instead of quantity now. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, it is nice, but I don't know that we're seeing any increase in anything. So the customers aren't appreciating what you call quality. Well, so then we hired one more person. Guess what it stayed at? 66. So I said, hey, we need to double the output. If I've got 66, I had 66 with one person, I'm expecting 198 with this many people. And he's like, well, we're going to need a whole bunch more people. I'm like, no, you were doing 66 with one, do that times 3. And so that's been an issue. Not that it's a bad issue, and I'm not beating those guys up, because their quality did go up, their storylines did go better, and their engagement did go up. So here's the thing that was interesting. Do we keep track of views, which we find fun, and follows, or do we keep track of actual conversion?
Right.
Like, because we, as a social group that wants to follow social media, get excited about how many millions and billions of views we get.
Yeah, the vanity network, vanity
that the
right?
world can see, right?
Yeah.
It says it at the
Yeah.
bottom how many views you have had and how many
Yeah.
likes and shares. But that doesn't translate to dollars usually, or
Right.
always. And so then I had a really good conversation. I don't want to steal Caleb Ralston's thing, but he said, I'd much rather have 200 people that convert than 200 million that just entertain themselves. So I like the metric of your vanity metric, to your point. Like, it's fun to say that video had 200 million views, sure. But how many sales did we get? Well, if you're not keeping track of how many sales that generated, then you're doing yourself a disjustice for chasing the vanity.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, that these are all complex things. And again, and you talked about getting that business to 1 million, then to 10 and 50 and then 100. And, it's one of the things that I think one of the key things that holds businesses back is leadership capability at different levels and different at scale, right? And you're not going to hire yourself out of that challenge. In other words, you have to develop your people to be able to do that. You can bring in some folks from the outside, and a lot of times that makes sense strategically. You got to be careful with that, but you've got to have a system that can grow for the talent, grow the leadership capability, and it doesn't take a lot. It can, a 5-point, 10-point lift across your management team in terms of capabilities has a scaled effect. But doing that when you're at at 100 and you really should have been doing that at 50, it's a lot of playing from behind there for sure. So,
well, where you recognize that is in your net margin.
Yeah.
Right. What could have been profitable at 50, but you waited to do it at 100. Now you've spent all that time in vanity just to not have net margin. Right. When you could have been really growing if you had a good push output of net margin to increase your scale, then your 100's faster.
Yeah. And it also shows up in your direct team and your team's time, right? What are the things that are being escalated or elevated to you that really need to be solved at a lower level? So you guys are focused on the next thing on the horizon.
Yeah, correct.
More times there, right? So again, these are where you end up solving too many problems that are rear view and not looking ahead. And there's just, everybody's got the same amount of time in a day. So you've got to train your people, train your leaders to be able to handle things. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, man, with the fire, from a fire system perspective, from an organization perspective, it all ties in. Well, maybe as we kind of bring this thing to a close, if you could go back to your 21-year-old self and give him some advice or tell him something, what would that be?
Oh, man, never get too big for your britches.
Yeah.
Like, bottom line is, don't burn the bridge with the guy that you may need to ask help from. Like, I had a problem of going to people that were really smart, or people that were really smart willing to offer advice. And my thought process was like, dude, you didn't do 20 million this year, bro. And I'm way bigger than you. And I don't know what you think you're going to be able to teach me, but I am like super, super successful and you are just an accountant or a banker or
Mm.
the manager of a mechanic shop. Like there is nothing, dude, you're going to teach me. And so what happened, and I'd spent so much time degrading and devaluing people
Mhm.
verbally, and like I was just a dick, right? At the end of the day, that by the time I needed the help and I wanted to ask advice from some of these mentors that I kind of was rude to, I couldn't because I was so embarrassed of the way I treated them in the past that I know for a fact that some of those guys would have been able to fix my problem in 13 seconds.
Mm.
But because, and more than likely, by the way, Kyle, they would have, even if
Yeah.
that, because they're grown men and they're more mature and they don't hate from above, right? They
Mhm.
would have stepped in and given me the advice. But because of my arrogance and my inability to just bite my tongue and own my failure, I didn't take the chance of asking the right mentors for the advice to help me navigate through something that more than likely felt like a tidal wave to me and would have been just another Tuesday afternoon for them.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like it's truly,
Yeah.
I look in hindsight like, man, dude, listen, don't burn
Mm.
bridges, be kind, be polite. Everyone has something to offer. Even the guy in the lowest, newest position at Murphy Door or whatever business it is, they have life experience. Just because they don't have the on the job experience doesn't mean they don't have something that could correct or give you that 1 degree shift to make your life a little bit easier based on their previous experiences. So listen to your people, listen to your mentors, and be nice, be
Man,
kind.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap this up, Jeremy. This has been an amazing conversation, dude, and I've
I
appreciated
appreciate
every
it.
minute of it, getting to know you too through this whole process. What a compelling story, and really looking forward to seeing what comes with you guys, and amazing products you have. For sure. We'll make sure we put a lot of your material in the show notes, but where can we find you and a lot of the stuff that you're into these days
Yeah,
online?
100%. So on Instagram, I'm jbarker482. Don't ask me why that handle. I just don't know how to change it. So LinkedIn, Jeremy G. Barker. 90 Proof Wisdom podcast with Jeremy Barker as well. You can find me
Great.
there. And then, of course, the kingpin is Murphy Door, man. If you got something that you want to create, it's just whatever you can think of, we'll build it. Everything we do at Murphy Door is 100% custom. The ideas on the website are just concepts. And yes, they're priced out
Mhm.
that way, but don't let our website be your limiting dream machine. Like whatever you think of, we can make it work. Reach out to us. We're right here. We're here to help designers, engineers, and everything else. So, and made right here in the US. Love to have you. The customer and Kyle, I love being a guest on your show. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Likewise, man. You're the man. Appreciate it. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, Jeremy. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much, sir.
Okay.